Happy Saturday. Welcome to the Paradigm Shift, episode 103. 103 weeks, no weeks off. Wow. Talk about consistency and that commitment. We have a very special guest on today, Dr. Jaime Zuckerman, aka Dr. Z. We can't wait. We're going to get nuts right now. See Ken's in the house, Alex, Scotty. Everybody drop in the chat right now, current state 1 to 10. Let's have some fun. Waiting for my iconic partner in crime, Big Dave, to hop in, and we're gonna get this party started. Pretty simple stuff. Where is Big D? Oh, there he is. How much sexy Greek salad? Dr. Z in the house. This is gonna be great. It's the piano man.
Sing me a song, piano man.
Piano man, sing us a song today. I should probably never sing again.
Me neither. It's not a talent. Well, we talk about our skills and knowledge being our basement. When it comes to singing, my basement has a basement.
Dave, I gotta tell you, I saw Billy Joel in concert. I always wondered if he was as popular as he was outside of like New York, Long Island, but it made me happy that you saw him. What'd you think? How was your experience?
Well, first of all, he sold out SoFi, so he's absolutely as popular as you would think he is outside of New York. And maybe it's because there's so many New Yorkers that are all around the country. But what I thought was most valuable or intriguing about Billy Joel and Stevie Nicks, by the way, is that they're generational, which is what makes sports so wonderful to watch. Because when you have grandparents with parents, with children, with grandchildren, watching something, all with a common bond, it was fantastic. And we were blessed in our suite to have 86-year-old beautiful Diane Cannon down to a 13-year-old who was with her father, and just arms bonded together, dancing, great joy and happiness. To me, the blessing of being able to provide a platform and opportunity at so many different multi-generational events, to see that and to share that. One of my friends' dad had passed, and getting choked up, but she came up to me afterwards, hugging me, just telling me how much it meant to her, because it was like reconnecting to her father. Every Billy Joel song that was there, and how much it meant to her. So I know we might trivialize some of these experiences, but remember, frequency and vibration exists in what we do, what we say, and what we sing. And when we vibrationally have that speed of light and speed of sound, all there to reminisce, remember, recollect with other people, knowing that even past lives that we've shared with people who may have moved on, they're still part of our unified, abundant, infinite system of thought. And when we can access that unification connection, there's an amazing experience and joy that comes from it. And that was my takeaway from last night at Billy Joel and Stevie Nicks. And I'm glad neither of them fell over, because they're definitely not winning any races.
Understood. Yeah, beautiful share, and thank you for sharing that. And it's so true. And I love all of that. To be honest, you just made me emotional. And it's awesome how something like that can bring people together in so many different thoughts and, like you said, frequencies and vibrations. Just a beautiful moment.
Yeah, it was. And also for me and my wife to share with our closest friends and family meant something to me. And anytime I have an experience with my wife like that, where she is so grateful because she got what I talked about my friend who didn't wake up, remember? His wife came with us, and she was a girl I dated when I was 13, and my wife had dated her husband when he was 14, and she had just lost her husband. When we talk about the aggregate effect of behavior, and he had struggles with alcoholism, and he didn't think it was impacting his life at all until one day he didn't wake up. So to share a good time with her, who had just lost her husband a few weeks ago, was also a beautiful experience as well.
Beautiful moment, and you're a beautiful man.
You are too, my brother. That's why I show up every single week, no matter where I am and what I'm doing.
Where are you right now?
I'm at home, but I'm going to be leaving. I'm blessed to be speaking with Gary Vaynerchuk, Jordan Belfort, Clinton Sparks was there last night. We're going to travel together to Dubai. John Lee. We're all going to be in Dubai, and then I'm catching some big speeches on the way home in Mexico City, and then I get home and get to celebrate my son's 13th birthday on Friday, the night of St. Patty's Day. My luckiest charm in my life, my little leprechaun, is growing up. He's almost as big as Craig Siegel, and we're just so excited and blessed.
Is he going to be bar mitzvah or no?
You bring up the sore subject of the Meltzer family. I believe in, as you know, being connected, and I have a bit greater struggle. I gave him the opportunity as well as the choice. I was bar mitzvahed, as you know, but he doesn't believe in anything that separates us, and so he believes in all religions that bring us all together. He's a very old soul and a wise young man, and he just said, "Dad, I just can't believe in anything that separates us." And even within the religion itself, you have different people separating men and women, Orthodox, conservative, Reform, Hasidic. All these people are separating themselves in the name of unifying themselves, right? And people think I'm an old soul or wise for my age at 55. They don't know I get all my secrets from a 13-year-old.
I believe it. It's awesome.
He's the little Buddha. I'm the ferocious Buddha. He's the little Buddha.
Yeah, and he's a little more handsome than you.
Oh, a lot more handsome than you. I mean, than me.
True. He's
almost as handsome as you. But yes, you know what I'm most jealous of is the man has a coif of hair. He has so much hair. I mean, he's like an extra 6 inches tall. He's like 5'7" with his hair.
I get so excited when you introduce new words to my vocabulary, which I know are going to become a regular. A coif. What a beautiful word.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
This is not a coif.
Speaking of elegance, let's bring out our guest, Dr. Z.
Dr. Z, I can't wait.
The audience is in for a treat. She's going to blow us away. A lot of fun topics to discuss.
Yeah, always.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
You like my hat?
I love it, but I noticed it's not the blessed one.
No, this is the gratitude one. So it's nice. There she is.
Dr. Z!
All I heard was bar mitzvah, and I just got my son's bar mitzvah date, and I'm not old enough to have a son that's getting bar mitzvah.
You're not old enough to have a son. What are we talking about? This is fun.
Dr. Z, thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're doing great. Full disclosure, we're about to get really weird. Specifically,
Let's go.
Definitely specifically Dave, but I'm a little strange too. For the audience that might not be familiar with Dr. Z, do yourself a favor, do a deep dive, check out all her amazing content. What I think is most valuable is we just get after it. You ready to rock?
I'm ready. Let's go.
I saw you talking about this in your content recently. I thought it was beautiful. Mastering peace to improve your mental health. Improving our mental health is something we can all work on. What do you mean by that? Mastering peace.
Yeah. So I like master. I like any words that have to do with actionable behaviors, because I think when we talk about things like self-love and all that stuff, it sounds great, but if I tell everyone to practice self-love and you're clinically depressed, I don't, right? So, and also self-love to you looks different than self-love to me. So you have to make it measurable, actionable, goal-oriented. And so mastery gives that sense of accomplishment and forward motion. And so one of the things that society has done to us that has been a huge detriment is giving this idea or this rule that our goal should be happiness. And I have a very big problem with that. Not saying we should go through life being miserable, but happiness is a moving target, and you should never have moods be a goal. Because I could wake up and think I'm happy and then like walk out of my room and you know, step on like a Lego and like hate the universe, right? So like, and then what? Did I fail for the day? You know, so we are taught that we should be happy all the time, right? Like I remember when I was little, if I was sad about something, it was like, come on, Jamie, like get over it, let's go. And you can't, because shitty things happen and you need to have appropriate responses. And so what I tell people as far as like that mastering peace doesn't mean happy. Peace means a willingness to sit with discomfort, with whatever comes up for you in the moment. You don't have to like it, because you probably won't, but you do have to sit with it, because the more you avoid that like internal, like I'm assuming we can curse on here, that internal like shittiness, you end up doing things like drinking, drugs, too much shopping, perfectionism, like, you know, working too much, all of these things to avoid that crappiness. And so the more you're willing to sit with it and master that piece, the more effective you are as far as like meeting your goals and things like that.
Yeah. Now, Dave, that's a paradigm shift.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think understanding.
Oh, it's in my job?
The idea of mastery, and you know, we fall into silos of definitions of words, and you know, a lot of people, you know, even because I am someone who is on a mission to empower people to be happy, but then I further define it so that I can meet people where they're at. And I love the idea of mastery because it incorporates the understanding of energy and behavior. When we're mastering something, it puts it into the context of practice. And as you know better than I do, that behavior is an energy, and that behavior can be to enjoy, for me, the consistent, everyday, persistent, without quit pursuit. And if you think about consistent, persistent pursuit, those are words that are action words. To be consistent, persistent in the pursuit of your potential. And so within the context of defining happiness or joy, I have people argue all the time, don't say happiness, say joy. Well, it depends on what the goddamn word means to you.
Yeah,
right?
I think language, like, because we have the ability for language, it's a blessing and it's a curse.
Correct. And when you look, and one of the things I picked up on from what you say is it's so important to meet people where they're at. I work with a lot of people who are anxious, depressed, and suicidal. And I've actually heard even professionals say, well, just look at it with the glass, a glass half full. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you're going to take someone, I said, how about let's teach them how to practice identifying the fear that we all have, and then being able to, because in me, I try to simplify, right? Fear of the past, fear of the future. Why don't we start there? Let's start practicing identifying that fear, because everybody gets kicked in the face, like you say, several times during the day. They step on Legos several times, analogously, a day. What do we do to spend minutes and moments in the interference? And so for me, I see this idea of ease, the same as the paradigm shift that changed my life, of instead of trying to get more, to understand that we are connected to and through this omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing source that loves us more than our mom. So when we identify fear, let's figure out what to do to clear that first and live at ease in the flow to pursue our best self, not what other people want, which I think is a really critical decision, which I love to discuss. Is part of the problem with social media is it provides us an opportunity to want what other people don't even have, let alone what we don't have.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah,
it's true. And then they end up so separate, and they interfere with the truth or their potential because they're pursuing something that even the other person doesn't have, standing in front of cars they don't own, living a snapshot of life. Look, if I took the best snapshots of my life, I'd want to kill myself if I was watching me. Like, I've done so many incredible things. If that was what people thought my reality is, now I have 4 kids. I got 3 daughters. If you think that's my reality all the time, if I take my best moment,
God bless you.
Right? Like, there, and I'm like born. I'm born with a happy
too,
gene.
and I'm done.
And they're 3 Jewish girls. They're 3 Jewish girls. So I'm not just saying, but anyway.
I say you're in trouble. I'm equally in trouble, so we're both in trouble.
I love it. Greg, go ahead.
This is so good. Yeah. This is so good. And it's funny because, Dr. Z, I was going to ask you about toxic positivity and what
Yeah.
exactly that means and what we should do instead. But
Yeah.
I think what Dave was just describing is toxic
It
positivity.
is.
You agree?
Yeah, I agree. I get yelled at for this all the time, so it gives me like more like, all right, I'm gonna take this down because I hate it so much. And I get people that say a lot of time, like, you have to have, I'm not saying you don't have to have compassion, but you have to have compassion. And and people could it always could be worse. And think of gratitude. That's the thing that I think is super helpful. But when you are going through something difficult and you're depressed and you're anxious, and in that moment you can't come up with something that you're grateful for, that is absolutely 100% appropriate. I think gratitude is so important to practice every day if you can. If you can't, you don't want to then judge yourself for not being able to come up with something grateful if you have this wonderful life and you're supposed to be happy. I think it sets you up for that you're supposed to feel a certain way, because there's many days where I'm grateful for everything I have, and then sometimes where I don't feel that way. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I think you have to be careful not to judge yourself. And that's where the toxic positivity comes in, is this idea. And you described it to a T. It's this invalidation with good intentions, but this societal invalidation that it could be worse. People have it worse than you. It'll get better. All these things that kind of don't let you just sit with where you're at. And I think it just does us a disservice. And you see this a lot. I saw this during the pandemic a lot. And I know people had really good intentions with it, but during the pandemic, like the lockdown, right? This was not a snow day, okay? This was not a time to better yourself. And I'll tell you why. I saw people saying, like, use this time to better yourself. Pick up something that you've never done before. And I'm sitting here going, of all times in our lives, the pandemic is when we're going to choose to better ourselves and think of something different to do. Like, we were so stressed. People are losing their jobs, losing money. People are dying. People are sick. We are losing social connections. Our cognitive abilities at the time were maxed out. And in addition to that, you're going to go pick up like something brand new when you don't have the cognitive ability to do that. And so people were falling into this trap of trying to, quote, better themselves, which gives you this idea that you're not good as you are, which isn't true, in a time where we are collectively, probably for the first time ever, collectively in this massive trauma. We were tapped out. And so I think that's where I saw a lot of the positivity start to come about. Now, that doesn't mean be negative and be this downer. And it just means accepting where you're at and knowing that it's okay to feel crappy about something. If someone breaks up with you, if you lose somebody, if you lose a job, like, it's okay. Like, the appropriate response is sadness. Like, people are saying, how am I supposed, I'm so depressed during the pandemic, I'm so anxious. And I'm like, yes, correct. You are, as you should be. And they were so relieved to hear that, because that internal struggle, they could take off the shelf, and they actually get better sooner when you take away that struggle and you just let yourself be. It's when you fight against it that the depression and anxiety becomes worse.
This is deep, Dave.
Yeah. No, and not to drop names, but I'm going to drop a name right now because it impacted me during the pandemic so much. I was speaking with Deepak Chopra, and he said to me, Dave, you realize this is the first time in human existence that the entire world is worried about human existence.
Yes. And you're going to choose to pick up Latin? Like,
right. But here's what we have to put a caveat, because what Dr. Z is saying is absolutely true. Part of the mistake that people make is that when we generalize and say, and so we choose the pandemic to do this in general, because what happens is the hyper actualizing people that have every option, opportunity, and touch of favor, that sit in a position, and I will put myself into the echelons of, hey, what my life was like during the pandemic was in the 0.001%, right? Like, when I got sick of being in my huge home in Orange County, which was a bubble, I would drive down to my beach house and spend 3 days there looking at the ocean and the empty beach because nobody else could be there because they closed it only to residences,
Correct.
right? And so there's all these things. So what happens is you get someone like me that people are like, oh, well, he's doubled his business during the pandemic. He's had all these, positive. But I think we have to look as a collective and say, look, everyone has these experiences. And in general, look, let's take care of ourselves first. You can't find outside of you what you don't see inside of you.
Correct.
And if the whole world is questioning human existence, that seems to be a great interference. And I say interference, FEAR, that, understanding mindset, hard set, and handset. Once again, we're not doing anyone a favor for not meeting people where they're at and allowing them to sit in the truth, not some false facade of happiness or aggressive potential behavior during a difficult time. It's like, it's pouring down rain, and you tell a 10-year-old, hey, let's go practice golf because this is a perfect time to practice golf. Now, there may be one kid out there that has the roofed or indoor golfing range, and so he's telling everyone, what a perfect time to practice golf. Right? Well, yeah, because you have the indoor golf range.
Correct.
Meanwhile, most of the rest of the world they can't even fathom practicing golf because it's freaking pouring out. And it was pouring out for most people.
But it still doesn't mean that you weren't suffering, dealing with this in your own way, right?
I got children.
And, yeah.
I got children. And there's an aspect of this world may not end, or my child may get really sick.
Yes.
Right. And as a parent, the greatest ignorant arrogance that exists is that we are more afraid for our children than we are for ourselves. So we give our children really shitty advice all the time because we give it out of fear.
What do you mean?
Not out of experience.
No, I mean, it's true that, people, people kept saying like, they were comparing it to 9/11, and I was getting on so many levels. I was like, it's not even the thing about the pandemic that I think what plays into the toxic positivity aspect was that this was a unique type of trauma, and that it didn't have a distinct beginning, middle, and an end. And our fight or flight response system is set to respond that lasts, like a short period of time, right? Like one trauma, one event. 9/11. Not saying it doesn't have consequence, prolonged consequences, but it's an event. It had a beginning, a middle, and a distinct end. And the pandemic still does not. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask, vaccine, don't get a vaccine, you get sick, you get this, ventilated, not there was all these things, go out, don't go out, orange, red, green. I mean, it was mind numbing, and our brains are not equipped to deal with prolonged trauma. That's why when people are coming out of this, they're feeling this overwhelming sense of like fatigue and fog and just like, what is going on? Like, where am I? Do I even like my job? Like, where am I in life? Like, and they're making all these massive changes because like we've never been in this situation before. And so I think you have to meet people where they're at because we are all in a way different place than we ever could have expected mentally. And I think to say it will get better, or this was my favorite, we need to get back, or this is our new normal. And I was like, there is nothing normal about this. Like, that's toxic positivity. Like, there's nothing normal about this. And you shouldn't, it's what your normal is. Right. And so I agree with you completely. I think part of that is you have to meet people where they're at, even if you don't agree with it.
Yeah, well, I just have to interject one thing. One thing Craig and I, because we've been doing this through the pandemic, had a huge advantage is that we are never normal. So it wasn't even an option to think about a new normal. We were thinking about what's the new abnormal for us because
I love that.
We're two abnormal creatures.
I love that.
Yeah. And it's Saturday. I want you guys to spend some time with your family. Real quick, last one. Dave Lane. Dr. Z, you talk a lot about narcissists and stuff of that nature. It's a very interesting topic. And I'm curious.
What
Does
two narcissists is a narcissist?
Dr. Z, does a narcissist actually know that they're a narcissist?
love this question. Okay, so a narcissist knows that they are viewed by others as a narcissist. A narcissist knows that other people think they have narcissistic qualities, but the narcissists themselves think that that those people's perceptions of them are off because they're either jealous of them, or they're too stupid to understand them, or they don't get them because they're just not on the same level.
I love it. I think everyone, in some respects, because we all have an ego, and the nature of the ego and ego-based consciousness in some level, and at sometimes we have narcissistic behaviors.
We all do.
And there are people that predominantly have narcissistic behaviors. Most of them are politicians, but I'm not naming any names.
No.
So, but both sides are sitting there going, "Yeah, Dave's right." You see, I've learned how to articulate something so that everybody agrees with me.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. Those guys are all narcissists over there.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I mean, I think that the driving force is that, you have to have a level of narcissism to be successful in business, to do certain things, to be, high up in your field, whatever it is. The difference is that narcissistic personality is sort of the driving force behind the behavior is one of total manipulation, lack of empathy, need to control, and it's constant. It doesn't fluctuate in and out. Like if you're with your kids, you're not going to act the same as you would if you're in a business meeting, right? Like you have the ability to shift. A narcissist will fake it, but they are like that all the time.
I agree.
Yeah, this is awesome. Dr. Z, we loved having you here.
This was fun.
Yeah.
This is a fun Saturday.
I love your personality.
Thank you.
And I love the way you articulate things. I don't want to say contrarian, but a different outlook that I think is really valuable for the audience to hear.
Good. I'm glad.
Appreciate you very much. What's the best way for our community to support you?
You can find me on Instagram, Dr. Z_psychologist. I have a podcast. It's me, Dr. Z. And my website is drjaimezuckerman.com. I have a ton of resources, books, things like that on there.
Dr. Z, where are you located?
I'm in Philly, outside Philly.
Very nice. Very cool. Well, thank you both so much.
Thank
love
you.
guys. Have an amazing Saturday. Thank you guys for making my life better and hopefully the audience as well. Dave, what's on your mind?
I just want to thank Dr. Z so much because, from a long lineage of people that I've studied to understand there's even younger people empowering us to understand our perception, and the participation in our perception is okay. And, to have people out there sharing, I call Dr. Z an influencer because a lot of the influencers are spreading dis-ease and spreading flu. And I love.
You have really good phrases.
It's like I do this every day.
You have a really unique phrases.
You imagine if you do this every day, it aggregates, accelerates, and compounds on itself. And I'm living proof that practice makes perfect. I'm not nearly there yet, but please, anything I can do for you, Dr. Z, just do me a favor. Keep sharing your content and doing good deeds. I love your perspective and helping others help others. And to be happy, whatever that definition is, to be your best self. And I'm trying to be my best self by showing up every Saturday with Eagle himself. Craig Siegel, thank you. Enjoy.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Shabbat Shalom, the 3 Jew crew. All right.
You too. Bye.
And we'll be back next week for the Paradigm Shift episode 104, baby. 104 weeks. What a great guest. If you guys weren't familiar with Dr. Z, do yourself a favor, check out her content right now. Her book, her website, her podcast, her Instagram. She's awesome. And just a great, unique perspective that I personally found very valuable, and I have a feeling all you did as well. You guys are loving the show. All we ask is that you share it, tell a friend, tell two. It's good for the show, and we keep spreading it, guys. Love you guys. Let's work on ourselves today a little bit, set ourselves up for tomorrow, and cultivate good habits. At the end of the day, you won't always be motivated, but if you revert back to your great habits and standards, you'll be successful, whatever that looks like for you. Love you guys. We'll see you next week for the Paradigm Shift episode 104. You dig?